Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 110 of the Momany podcast. Yeah, I know. I'm a few days late. I get it. It's Friday, not Wednesday, but I have a really good reason for being late. And to be fair, for the 2 years I've had this podcast, and yes, I'm almost at my 2 years. I think a few days away. I think I launched this on June 3rd, 2015. Oh my gosh, where's the time gone? That's crazy. Anyways, in the history of me having this podcast, I have not missed a single Wednesday. Even when working full time and having the side hustle and doing all of this, I somehow did not miss one Wednesday. But I have failed myself and I am not proud of it, but I do have a really good excuse for it. It's been a very busy week. Why? Well, I think I've, hinted here and there that I've been working on something very special for the past year, really, with my friend Jacqueline Phillips, who is a fitness coach, fitness model, and she's just now graduated to become a certified yoga instructor. So she's kind of the whole package. We've been working on a online course to help people with their financial and physical health called the Rich and Fit Bootcamp. And we finally finished and we finally launched it with a webinar this past Wednesday. And so registration is officially open for our Rich and Fit Bootcamp, and we are so excited, but also so exhausted, and we're really looking forward to having the course start. So if you want to learn more information about this course, how you can get involved and register, well, you better do that now, because registration for the course is going to close next Wednesday, June 7th. So we're less than a week away until registration closes, and I do not want you to miss this opportunity. So make sure to check out the show notes, jessicamorehouse.com/110. Or just visit the registration page, richandfitbootcamp.com. Once again, that's richandfitbootcamp.com. And if you do visit there in, the next day or two, you may be able to still take advantage of the special promo we have got going on. The first 10 people to enroll in our course will get 50% off, which is insane because, it's just... You'll see, once you really see what we're offering in this course, you'll see that is like a crazy, crazy deal. So make sure to go to richandfitbootcamp.com to find out more information and to register and join the community. There's already a ton of people who've decided to register and join us for the 7-week intensive online course to whip your finances and physique into shape. So we hope you become one of those people and join us. It's going to be super, super fun. Okay, enough about all of that. The next guest I have for the show is, it's kind of the perfect guest for what I've got going in my life. I interviewed Nick Loper from Side Hustle Nation. He has a blog and a podcast with the same name, but he has got a thriving community of side hustlers. He's also got an awesome Facebook group that if you're into side hustles, you definitely want to check out. But we talk about how he went from the corporate world into, dabbling with side hustles, and eventually he was able to create a full-time job and thriving company of himself based on this whole idea of side hustles. So very apropos, and I'm very excited to share this interview with Nick right now. Thank you, Nick, for joining me on the Momany podcast today. I'm so excited for you to be on the show, and I'm excited that I kind of hounded you at FinCon and made you talk to me and give you my card.
No problem at all, Jessica. Thank you for having me. And let me be, I hope, the first to congratulate you on the podcast for becoming a full-time hustler.
Thank you. I know. Oh, full-time hustler. I like the sound of that. I should probably make a t-shirt with that. Or maybe not. I feel like some people might take that the wrong way. But I am super pumped to be a full-time hustler. And that's why I really like what you're doing with Side Hustle Nation. It is totally up my alley, which is why I really wanted to chat with you. I talked to a lot of people on the show about saving and investing and being frugal and being smart with your money. But I think a really important element when it comes to personal finance is making more money. And one way I did that was I've always had some sort of side hustle. When I first, finished university, I had a 9-to-5, but then I also had a kind of a side job as a teleprompter operator for the news, made me some extra cash. And then I kept that for like 3 years. And then I started the blog and started making income like that. And then I'm kind of like, wow, this is great. And then it led me to, do what I'm doing right now. So I think what you're doing, what you're promoting, and is great, because I think a lot of, and I'm totally an advocate for side hustles with all my friends. And now lots of them have started little side hustles based on like their expertise or skill set, which is kind of cool.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So, well, it's a way for them to, you know, save some extra money, make some extra money, and pay down debt quicker, which is very, very cool. But I would love to know a little bit more about you and how you got into this side hustle world. So you haven't always been an entrepreneur yourself. You started out as, working the corporate life, right?
I did. My first, I graduated school and got a job, like what you're supposed to do,
that's
right?
what you're
You
supposed
just
to do.
paid all this money, all this money in tuition. And at that point, I wasn't ready to go out on my own. I didn't know that was something that you were really allowed to do. And even 3 years later, when I eventually quit, it was still this, like, is this allowed? Like, it was a weird, even though I had kind of a revenue history and this, side income that was coming in, it was still kind of an intimidating leap to take. So my original side hustle was a footwear comparison shopping site, like super random. I'm not like a sneakerhead or
Yeah, I'm like, do you really like shoes?
Not at all. Like, I'm probably my own worst customer. The basis of that site, or kind of how it came about, was I had interned in Seattle at a company that was kind of one of the pioneering like online footwear retailers, and that was my first introduction to e-commerce and Google AdWords and affiliate marketing and SEO and all this stuff. And it was just, kind of a fascinating place to be. And so after that internship ended, I was like, well, how can I use, what I learned? And so I became an affiliate of theirs and several other online shoe retailers, and started doing like direct link text ads in the search engines for very specific models of shoes. So if you go to Google, like if you go to AdWords and you bid on shoes, you're going to just lose money left and right, because that's like very, very top of the funnel, or like very early in somebody's like buying decision process, right? They're like very early in the research. So I was like going to target people at the very end, like, hey, they've decided on this specific model that they're looking for more information on, and I can link that directly to who I think has the best deal, or I think is most likely to convert. And I started doing that, like with a budget of $1 a day, because I was still in college, and in AdWords you could set your budget. And once that was validated, it kind of, saw that people were clicking on these links, that people were buying, that the ad spend was profitable. That's when I kind of plunked down and had the website built, which involved hiring an outsourced development team and kind of placing my bet in a bigger way.
Wow, that's pretty smart.
In hindsight, it sounds smart. It was a slow process going through it, but it's and that business kind of was what I was working on, while I was working corporate. So nights and weekends would be spent trying to figure out how to sell more shoes, and working on this database and optimizing the ads and doing all this stuff that otherwise would have been spent watching TV or I don't know what else, playing video games at that time probably. And so 3 years later, I finally got up the nerve to turn in the keys to my company car and say, I'm out of here.
Nice. Ooh, company car though. Ooh.
It was, it was a hard gig to give up.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's awesome. So you gave up your corporate job to just do that first business, the shoe business?
Yes.
Okay. And then when did you decide to do your Side Hustle Nation brand and business?
So during this time, so this is 2008 when I left the corporate world, started doing the shoe thing full time. On day one of self-employment, it sounds like your first week is going a little bit better than mine did. On day one of like my retirement, I have visions of the 4-hour work week in my head.
Yes.
Like, it's going to be awesome. And had no reason to believe otherwise, because up until that point, it had worked. Like the site was fine. The account, the advertising account was fine. On that first day of self-employment, like the server crashes for some unknown reason. Maybe there's a power outage on the East Coast, wherever it was, in the data center. And on top of that, Google says, this is the day we're going to crawl your account for like our quality guidelines. And they find, first of all, the site doesn't load. And once it eventually came back up, they're like, it kind of raised a red flag. And they're like, this site doesn't meet our quality guidelines.
Oh, no.
The sole purpose of your site, they said, was to drive traffic to other sites. And I said, yes.
True
story. That's how I get paid. I make commission on these, when somebody goes to these other stores and buys. But like Google, who are you to talk? The sole purpose of Google is to drive traffic to other sites. you've got 2 years of account history or something at this point, like thousands of happy customers, like, you go through all 7 stages of anger and denial and all this stuff. And ultimately they came back. So we made some tweaks to the website and had to sink all this extra money into development costs on top of now not having a corporate paycheck. So it was really kind of a stressful time. And ultimately they came back 3 months later and said, looks like we made an error. You're good to go. Ooh. And it was just like, such a stressful time. But that was kind of an eye-opening moment about diversification, right? Yeah. So something that is a really common theme on Side Hustle Nation, something that I, will continue to preach, because it's like most people are really reliant on one source of income. For most people, it's their job. But I found myself in the exact same boat as an entrepreneur. And I was, I thought I was diversified because I had 30 or 40 different advertisers or stores, that was in the database or that were on the site. But, peel it back one layer and 80% of the site traffic came from Google. So it was like, okay, that is not diversified at all. So during the time of running the shoe business is when I was trying to start all these other little side hustle projects, and most of those flopped, but a couple have stuck around. And one of those was the Side Hustle Nation blog and podcast that started kind of spring of 2013. So about 3.5 years deep into that one.
Oh, wow. Well, you've grown the Side Hustle Nation, website and brand like crazy. If you've only been around since 2013, props to you. That's awesome. And now you have a podcast also, which is, I was listening to it before I'm chatting with you, and I loved it. It's probably going to be on my regular rotation.
Oh, thank you. It's so much fun. I know you probably have the same experience. Like, I love doing the show, and it's been really the number one growth channel and kind of avenue of discovery for the site. Like, it's grown several times faster than the blog has.
Oh,
which
for
is
sure.
Weird, because I considered myself to be primarily a writer when I launched at that point. And so it's kind of weird to see. You never know how people are going to react. So apparently writing not so much, but apparently
I think
interviewing.
I totally agree. It was, I've had my blog, I've been blogging for over 5 years now, but it wasn't until I started the podcast that people started really paying attention. Isn't that interesting? And it was the most terrifying. And I don't know if you had the same experience, but before I launched the podcast, I'm like, it just felt so intimate and so scary. People actually hearing my voice, and you can't edit really. I mean, so it's very, I don't know, it felt very vulnerable, but it's been the most rewarding thing. And also just like hearing from listeners, and, you feel like you have more of a connection with them. And I'm sure lots of your listeners, feel like they know you.
Yeah, it really is a more valuable connection, or more valuable relationship, right? Somebody's going to spend 30, 40 minutes with you in their earbuds. And if they like the content, they might do that week after week after week versus, they saw a clickable link on Twitter or something, and they spend 3 minutes reading or skimming your blog post. Like, it's not as deep of a relationship.
Absolutely.
So I really like that. And it please don't go listen to the first 50 episodes, because it takes a while to kind of hit your stride as a host.
Sure. Oh my gosh.
I would consider myself a pretty introverted person, and that's why hosting an interview show was perfect for it. Let somebody else do the talking.
I know. It's I'm absolutely the same way. I think on the scale of like introvert extrovert, I'm kind of in the middle, but definitely introvert was at the forefront when it first started. And so my first several episodes, well, now I'd say like the newest episodes are definitely my favorites. I've definitely honed my craft a little bit more.
Absolutely, but it comes with practice.
Yeah, it comes with practice. I'd love to chat about. So you started. So what inspired you to start your Side Hustle Nation blog and then podcast? Was it just that you were learning so much about side hustles yourself that you wanted to share that information with people and really just kind of let people know, hey, there's another way you can make money besides having, one stream of income from your 9 to 5?
Yeah, so it was kind of a couple components of it. One was as a creative outlet for me to kind of report back on some, marketing, entrepreneurship stuff that was going on in my own life, and, a place to talk about some different experiments or experiences that I was testing out with. And then the second component of it was kind of this concept of trying to build a personal brand. What do you want to be known for when people Google you? And it was just something I was really excited about, like a lower risk brand of entrepreneurship, something that was more accessible, I think more realistic to most people than the narrative that often comes out of Silicon Valley, where you're going to raise millions of dollars in venture capital and you're going to build the next Uber. And, it happens. Obviously, it happens. But I think for most people, starting something on the side, probably a little bit more realistic. So trying to spread the gospel of the side hustle, and reaching out and finding different people who were making that happen, or who had made it happen. And it's been a blast. We're on like episode 211 or something.
Wow.
Coming out tomorrow.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, do you find, and it could just be me, but I feel like the idea of having a side hustle or kind of a, second job a little bit is a bit of a newer concept. I feel like older generations, it wasn't necessarily a thing that they did. It was all about kind of having that one job. You stayed at 30 years, you get your pension, there you go. But now I feel like with being, us millennials and just the economy and just all the things that we've gone through, it feels like a bit more common. Like, most of my friends have some sort of side hustle. Like, it's kind of a normal thing now.
Yeah. And maybe that's one reason why the site has grown. It's like, tapping into a growing trend. But it is and it isn't, right? So maybe it's been branded as a side hustle, but previous generations have been, maybe they called it moonlighting, maybe they called it a second job, maybe they, were investing in real estate, on the side. So the concept of, doing something in your free time to make extra money definitely isn't new.
Yeah.
But you're right. The millennials have really taken hold to it. I think one part out of desire, like out of, hey, maybe my day job doesn't kind of give me this creative outlet, or doesn't let me scratch my own itch, or, whatever it may be. And so that would be kind of like the positive proactive reason. Yeah. And the second part of that would be like the negative reactive reason of like, hey, there's no job security. I'm not getting paid as much as I would like. And the cost of living, especially in terms of like, housing, education, and medical expenses, like all have skyrocketed while wages have remained the same. So it's like, well, I got to do something. I got to be proactive and take matters into my own hands to make ends meet.
Absolutely. One thing that I love on your website was you have a lot of great resources and a lot of great information about, if someone is thinking about doing a side hustle, here are some options, here are some ideas. What are some of the most common ones, or maybe some of the easiest ones for people to kind of transition into, in your opinion?
Let's do kind of the top three categories.
Okay.
So the first that I think is like really easy and fast to get started would be like tapping into what we call like the sharing economy, or the peer-to-peer economy. And this is, your Uber drivers of the world, your Airbnb hosts of the world, your like Uber Eats, Caviar, delivery people. I met somebody sent me a note like, I'm going to make 10 grand this year hosting or doing pet sitting on dogvacay.com, which is like Airbnb, but for dogs.
No way.
It's like, that is like, that's crazy, but that's awesome.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's amazing.
There's all these different platforms where, you don't like, the Airbnb thing is just still really, really crazy to me. It's like if you wanted to rent out a spare room in your house 15 years ago, you would, your advertising options would be limited to like a sign in your yard or, an ad in your classifieds.
Yep.
But now, there's this kind of worldwide demand. And I met a guy recently for the Buy Buttons book research. He was in New York, and him and his girlfriend were like, well, let's just see what happens. If you want to sleep in an air mattress in our living room, you can do that for $80 a night. And it turned out that they were like flooded with inquiries.
No
and they're
way.
like, we didn't really want people, we didn't expect people to be here like all the time. So what they ended up doing was just renting out the place like while they were traveling. And the cool thing is it ended up being like revenue neutral. They're like, we're going to Costa Rica for 2 weeks. The place is rented out and it's like paid for our entire vacation. I was like, dude, that's awesome. So I really like those options, kind of these built-in platforms where it's really easy to kind of set up your profile and, make it easy for people to do business with you in that way. Option number two, or area number two, would be, selling some sort of freelance service. And the advantage that I see here, so like, if you're delivering for, if you're driving for Uber, they're probably the best example of this. It's like, they've continually cut rates over the last 3 years because they can.
Yeah.
And, their argument that they make is, well, we're trying to, increase the demand side, and it's going to be better for the drivers because you're going to have more work. I have yet to talk to a driver that says that's actually true. It's like, well, they just keep cutting rates. And they do that because, hey, it's anybody can do it. And now they're, already testing a fleet of driverless cars. So if it's something that anybody can do, anybody naturally will do it. And, that drives down rates. So the freelancing side, you have a little bit more opportunity to kind of hone in on your specific skills and talents and find some business with, that you can help solve a problem for them. So I like platforms like, and you can still use this, buy buttons theory of, going where the cash is already flowing with marketplaces like Upwork, marketplaces like Fiverr. I met a guy who his claim to fame was he earned enough money on Fiverr to buy a house within his first year on the platform.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is like episode 5 of the Side Hustle Show, one of the very early episodes, but it really kind of put the show on the map because it was just such a crazy story. And he kind of explained, look, it's the marketplace of goods and services where everything starts at $5. It's all about the upsell.
Yeah.
And so he told me, your $5 thing is got to be something you can, an asset you've already created, like a PDF, like an audio file, video file, something that you can deliver in just a couple seconds. And then if somebody wants your time, they can buy that in the, extras, in the upsells. And he was a kind of PR professional, copywriter professional. And so he was like, one of his examples was like, I will show you the 7 steps to a killer autoresponder sequence or something. And then it was like, I will write message number 1 for you is like in the upsell. So the pre-delivery is like the $5 thing. Fascinating thing. Like I've had a ton of fun playing around on Fiverr, and it's like a top 100 website in the world in terms of traffic. So it's just lots of buyers out there, looking to spend some money. So I like that one. Of course, you can set up your own kind of content marketing based or, proactive freelance hustle as well in lots of ways. Lots of cool examples of people doing that in the archives too. And then option number 3, or kind of category number 3, is what we'll call kind of the age-old business model of just buy low and sell high. It's the same model that, Walmart and Amazon, like all of these stores, pretty much every store in the history of stores uses, right? Where it kind of gets fun from the side hustle perspective is, so I met a guy who calls himself the flea market flipper. And so he's down in Orlando, and every weekend you can find him at the Orlando flea market. He says, looking for the odd items. And he gave me the example of finding a prosthetic leg for like $30 or $40 and turning around and flipping it on eBay the next day for like $1,000. Or finding some, exercise bike that's like used in physical therapy offices and picking that up for a couple $100 and flipping it for $2,000. Just like random stuff. But it's like, look, anybody could do this, and you can start with whatever investment you're comfortable with. Like I haven't gone the flea market route, but I've gone the Amazon FBA route, which is a really fascinating model, and kind of the gateway drug to get into it is just like this clearance arbitrage model where you download the Amazon seller app, and as you're out running your errands as you normally would, you stop by the clearance aisle and you scan these barcodes on these items, see what they're worth online. And my general rule is if you can double your money, and if that has like a sales rank in its category, which the app will show you, of less than 100,000, then I'll go ahead and buy that and package them all up, ship them in to Amazon. They fulfill the orders on your behalf. The reason you want the sales rank under that number is it'll give you an indication of like how fast it's going to turn. So like if it's, sales rank 1.2 million, like that means it might sit on the shelf for a really long time. You're not likely to see a return on that for a while. But I really like that. I've seen people do similar thing, just buying and selling stuff on Craigslist, flipping to eBay. And I really like that as a way to multiply your dollars faster.
I have never heard of that Amazon thing, but that sounds genius.
This is one of the hottest side hustles going, and then people are going all the way to now having their own products created in China and manufactured and imported over here, and there's this whole like economy built. The funny thing about Amazon, and I didn't realize this until just a couple years ago, it's like a big consignment store. Half of their inventory is owned by people like you and me. And,
I didn't know that.
they're kind of crowdsourcing their inventory in that way and say, hey, look, we built this logistics network and you can take advantage of that.
Wow. That is so interesting. I bet lots of people listening are going to be like, I'm going to look into that right now because that is super helpful. And I feel like definitely outside of the box when you think of, side hustles, I think a lot of, or at least what I'm kind of, seeing online is, how to make money online, but there's so many other ways to make some extra cash. And I think that's awesome. And I guess, the main trade-off is, you're trading your time for money, but, it depends on what you're selling, what you're doing really. So man, I think I need some products to sell somewhere. I've got some ideas.
There you go.
I would love to know, because you've grown Side Hustle Nation, so much in the past couple of years. What are your plans as an entrepreneur? What are some of your projects that you're working on? What are some of the things that you would like to see happen the next couple of years for you?
Well, one thing, so I'm getting super jealous, like looking at your website right now. It's beautifully designed. So I've had a kind of redesign, a refresh on the mind for the site. Mm-hmm. So this version of the site is 3 years old right now. Mm-hmm. So it's starting to look a little bit dated. Of that redesign refresh is kind of rethinking what happens on the back end after somebody opts in. So right now, I've kind of am dumping everyone into one general autoresponder sequence, which I think is leaving a lot of opportunity on the table to be more engaging, more relevant, where it's like, okay, if somebody opted in for something specifically related to e-commerce and now I'm sending them something about freelancing, like they both follow under that overall umbrella of, being viable and lucrative side hustles, but there might be a disconnect there. So that's kind of one thing that's on my radar is kind of smarter segmentation and automation on that front. The other projects, I don't know, like that's what I'm trying to figure out. What would be a good goal as the site has grown. I've found my time to do different random side hustle experiments has decreased. And that's a little bit frustrating for me. It's like, that's kind of how it started. Like, oh, I'm going to go sell something on Fiverr and report back, how I got on the homepage or what have. There may be some more experiments in the future or, bringing on an intern or, some sort of help to, test out different things and see what happens, do some public case studies and stuff like that.
Definitely. No, I think I'm sure there would be lots of people that would like to volunteer for that because so many people, would, probably experiment on their own time, but they'd like to share the news with somebody. Maybe
so. I don't know. It's kind of like, I've got an episode coming out about this. Like everybody's posting their New Year's resolutions and their, their big goals for the year. And it's like, I don't know. It's easy to pick it out. Like I want to make $1 million, but it's like, what is that? Why? What does that really mean?
Also,
something I've been struggling with and trying to. It was actually through the Rockstar Finance newsletter. I found a post that was about I'm going to focus. It was like I'm ditching my goals and that one really resonated with me. So that's something that is on the mind for this first part of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing some side hustle ideas. I will definitely link to a couple very useful blog posts that you have on your site that I think lots of people will get a lot out of. And of course, I encourage everyone to subscribe to Side Hustle Nation, the podcast that you have, which is super awesome and motivating. If anyone wants to figure out where to start, what to do, where to go, that is the place to go. So thank you, Nick, for joining me. It was a pleasure chatting with you. And that was episode 110 with Nick Loper from Side Hustle Nation. Make sure to visit sidehustlenation.com to learn more about what he's up to and check out his podcast on iTunes and everywhere. It's called The Side Hustle Show. You definitely don't want to miss it. It is awesome. And I think he just cracked a crazy record for himself, like over 300. No, it was something even crazier. It was like 3 million downloads, something beyond my
Like, I don't understand that. That's amazing. So make sure to check him out if you want to learn how to make some extra money on the side, because it's kind of a great way to get to that next level. If you've budgeted as much as you can and there's nothing else to kind of cut back on, it's time to figure out a way to make some extra cash. Highly recommend-y. Another thing I highly recommend is my Rich and Fit Bootcamp. Oh, see how I just slid that in there. So if you are interested in really taking this summer to really focus on yourself and really get your finances and your fitness, really in check, you'll definitely want to join us on this 7-week journey to fixing your financial and physical life. It is awesome. We have so much materials, videos, lessons, a whole exercise video library. And we also, the best part, my favorite part, is the community aspect, the accountability aspect. I mean, lots of the stuff that we're teaching isn't, out of left field. Like, oh, you probably know all this stuff, but the thing that we're offering really is you get access to myself and Jacqueline to help you along your journey, but also all the other students. So you feel like you have a reason to continue to move forward, to really reach your goals, which I think is kind of like the most important aspect of all of this. So make sure to check out the show notes for some more information, jessicamorehouse.com/110. Also going to put a lot of great information about Nick and what he's up to in the show notes. So definitely want to check that out, or just feel free to go to the registration page with more information about our course, richandfitbootcamp.com. This is probably the last time I'm really going to talk about it, because registration for the course closes next Wednesday, June 7th. So it may be too late by the time you listen to the next episode. So if you're listening to this right now and this sounds like, yeah, this is my jam, this is definitely something that I want to pursue, don't delay, because you only have a few days left to decide. That's really it for me. I'm going to try my best to not miss another Wednesday, because I have a couple more great episodes in the queue, and then I'm taking my summer break, which I hope you have plans to do as well. So thanks again for listening, and I'm going to see you right back here next Wednesday. I promise. Okay, bye-bye.